everybody, welcome to the Talk the Town. I'm Aloysia Dias and I'm here today with the Town Council, Michael Cunningham. Michael previously served as the Deputy Town Council in Arlington, as well as having 20 years of experience as an attorney. Thank you, Michael, for being with us here today. I know you have a busy schedule, so we do appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. So there's a lot I want to talk about, and I'm very excited to talk to you. But I suppose first and foremost, just tell me a bit about yourself, why the legal profession attracted you, and then maybe why, in particular, the legal profession in the public service industry attracted you. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I think law was always something I knew I wanted to get into. In college, I was a history major, but obviously that's often a precursor to law school. I had family members who were lawyers, so I was interested through them. Eventually get to law school where I got interested in government work. I was a student senator during law school and tried to stay active. And because I'd right out of college, I had worked for 2 years at the State House in Boston. Kind of got away from that after I graduated from law school. I had to work to pay some bills, but was in litigation for almost 20 years, working in Boston, in the Boston area. But then this opportunity came back to get back into government work, and in Arlington, I'm very excited that I was able to join the community and be part of the town's team, and really happy to be here and been here almost 5 years.
Okay, and you mentioned that you worked in the Senate. Was it in Boston or the State House?
At the State House, yeah.
At the State House, okay.
I was an aide for my local representative, originally from Saugus, Massachusetts, and worked as a legislative aide in the State House for 2 years before I went to law school.
And if you don't mind me asking, what attracted you? Like, that was political work. I know it's a bit of legislation, but it's the world of politics, and you were probably interested in politics / like legal work. So what attracted you to the legal profession as opposed to the world of politics?
I like the way the law works. Yeah. There are set rules. There's a structure, as you know, from your work and studying the law. I think I like the formality of it. I enjoyed the ability to try and make arguments on different sides of an issue. I enjoyed that. In law school, I was involved in moot court, and I enjoyed they would give us a legal problem, and oftentimes we'd have to argue one side of an issue and then argue the opposite side a half hour later. So the ability to try and transition and make effective arguments on both sides, and I think gives lawyers an ability to see the perspective of both sides, or take an issue and look at the different arguments and understand that, well, my perspective is here, but have I considered the perspective from a different angle? And once we're able to do that and trained a certain way, like you have been, I think that helps us better understand issues at large.
Absolutely. And so you worked as an attorney for 20 years, I believe, or more than that before you...
Yeah, it was about 20 years.
Okay. And so when did you know that you wanted to transition into a role which you are in today?
I knew for a while, but once you're down a certain track, it's sometimes difficult to transition out.
Yes.
So I had been looking for a bit, and the opportunity came up in Arlington, we have 2 lawyers in Arlington that work for the town. There's the town council and deputy town council. The deputy town council position also encompasses with a workers' compensation component, which I had some experience in. So the deputy town council / workers' compensation agent for the town had been here for nearly 40 years. Ed Marlenga, who did a great job for the town for a long time. And that position, when he retired, that position opened up, and I was fortunate enough to get a look for that position, and I was very glad to get it and get out of the litigation, full-time litigation job. And there is some litigation that is involved with this job, and I'm happy to continue to do some of that work because I've always found it interesting, but I like the very nature of town council's office in general.
Understood. And I just want to ask you about your role as town council. What's the most prominent tasks that you have to do? What does the role entail in large?
It's serving as the town's lawyer. So whether it's the town manager's office, the select board, any of our nearly 80 boards, commissions, and committees, really serving as a full-service legal stop for all those people who are involved in those different committees. It can, from day to day, it can be an issue related to a tree, to the next day related to somebody that, there was an incident at town hall to the next day being the review of a contract with a vendor who's looking to work with the town. You never know. There could be 7 different things that go on a particular day, and I like that variety.
Okay, and I'm curious as to, does your role allow you to be very public facing? Are you face to face with a lot of citizens, or is it a lot of committees and just maybe internal stakeholders that you communicate with, or what exactly?
It's a bit of both.
Both? Okay.
We can't represent individual citizens.
Okay.
It's prohibited. But so I can't provide legal counsel to individual citizens. But I do enjoy working with citizens. Arlington's, I think, a great community, and we've got a lot of citizens that are actively involved in a lot of these boards, commissions, committees, but also just in general. And at town meeting's an example of, we have the right of citizen petition for town meeting, and I have worked with people in town who have ideas that they want to bring before town meeting, and perhaps work with them to get a warrant article drafted, or work with them on draft motion language that they can submit. Again, I stress there's no attorney-client relationship with those individuals, but I do enjoy working with people. It's a very engaged community. I think it's another one of the things that's attractive about Arlington is this place has a lot of people who care a lot about this place.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also wanted to ask you about the legal department in a municipality government, and maybe the task that you delegate with deputy council, if any. How does the legal operations exactly work in a town government?
Well, I guess I'll start by saying not all local municipalities in Massachusetts have town council on staff.
Okay.
A lot of towns, or certainly a decent amount, contract out with private firms who do municipal work. I think I'm very fortunate. I think hopefully the town of Arlington is fortunate that they have an attorney who works for the town, as well as a deputy town council in the legal department. It's the 2 attorneys, and then we have 3 staff persons who work at the legal department. I did want to say that the deputy town council who came here about a year ago, Jacqueline Munson, has been a tremendous addition for the town. She works really hard, is a great lawyer, is a great resource for the town, and has been a huge addition for the legal department in general. So I think it's helped us become a lot more efficient, a lot more functional. Been really happy to have her on board. She's a huge help.
Okay, I didn't know that about not every municipality government not having like a in-house lawyer. No,
there are firms that really specialize in that type of practice. So oftentimes a firm will represent 15, 20 different communities, and the impact of that is that if you're a town administrator or a town committee member, if you make a phone call, they're all very good lawyers. If you make a phone call, though, the clock's ticking. They charge by the hour, and those rates can get high depending on the issues that you're tackling, as opposed to our office where there is no. I mean, we're compensated by the town via salary, but there's no running meter. So if we're working on something, we're not sending a bill to the town for our services.
Yeah, and is that some of the reasons you mentioned? Is that why, in particular, you were attracted to a role like this, or what drew you into this role more so than, let's say, some of the private litigation or working for some big law firm?
Well, I think I love the variance. So when you're in a law firm, oftentimes you get put into a particular section of law or a particular type of work that you're doing, and that can become a little bit repetitive. I think that there's an element to this job that is very much different day to day. Mm-hmm. I think I have to mention, I know this is you'll soon realize depending on what career you choose, but billing hours is not a fun exercise. I mean, you may be already doing some of that.
Oh, I interned back in 2023 at like one of the corporate law firms back in Dublin, and billing. I used to do all the billings for all the lawyers myself. So I'm aware of, but that's like the biggest hindrance, you think?
I think that's a part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the work is the most important, but how the work is done is also important. And the legal profession in the United States, and sounds like similarly in Ireland, we're billing in 6-minute increments, where say you have 0.1 for a phone call, and there's always a clock ticking, and you're trying to get things done in a way that are most efficient. And that remains true in this job. We want to be efficient. We have a lot to do, but it's good to not have to worry about if I end up working on something for 3 hours on something that the client's only going to pay for 2 hours. that it's not lost time, and we can really focus on doing a good job, doing a thorough job, making sure we've spotted all the issues and really done a comprehensive look at some issues. I really think that's a big part of what makes this job attractive.
Understood. Okay. And I just want to talk a little bit more about litigation. Is there frequent litigation in the town of Arlington?
I wouldn't call it frequent. I think
Okay.
that there are a lot, there are claims made against the town. The town doesn't often, but it does get sued by individuals, by companies, and it's our job to represent the town, answer those complaints, attend depositions, appear in court as required, both state and federal. I wouldn't say it's an overwhelming burden. We have 2 attorneys. I think we handle it pretty well. There are certain occasions where we have to engage outside counsel for a specialized issue. There's certainly some environmental issues that occurs, but in general, we can handle the litigation load pretty efficiently. So I think my background is helpful in that capacity too. I think that's one of the reasons why I probably got the job initially as well, is to provide some background support to town council when I was hired as deputy town council. And the current deputy town council, Attorney Munson, has extensive litigation background as well, which is extremely helpful for the town and helps to alleviate the load from any one particular lawyer for me.
Yes, yes. Your background, that was in insurance, I believe, or was it in something else?
Yes,
It's in
and
insurance litigation.
a lot of litigation
Okay.
in the United States, or in Massachusetts in particular, but is insurance defense related. So it's what they call. So if a company, you have to have an insurance policy. If they get sued, the insurer will assign defense counsel, and so those are often a lot of the cases that I worked on various matters, and that applies to I did product liability, personal injury cases. Professional liability, where we represented doctors, lawyers, and malpractice cases. Those often come through insurance companies, and they're known as insurance defense in the litigation industry.
Okay, okay. And now I just want to ask you about a particular case that went on here in Arlington. It was the Johnson v. Town of Arlington, which was an alleged racial profiling civil rights case. And I just wanted to ask you about your role as the town council. Were you deputy town council at the time?
I was, yes.
Yeah. So as your role of town council, I just want to understand what your role in the litigation would be.
There are some limitations about what I can say in answer to this particular question. I will say that my role and town council's role in that case was to represent the town. There was a retention of outside counsel for the police officers who were named in the lawsuit. The reason for that obviously is the typical, in a lot of these cases, that even if there's a potential for any conflict, there wasn't in that case, but it's best practice to separate out the defense in that manner. So my role was, I was involved in litigation at that time, though it was mostly the role of town council Doug Heim, who did a great job defending the town in that matter. I was involved towards the end when he left, and we eventually resolved the case via settlement.
Okay. And are you comfortable answering what internal training or policies were developed to make sure cases like this do not arise again?
Again, I can answer generally. The specifics of those specific trainings were set forth in the settlement agreement.
Okay.
I would say that in general, and this is a public record because it was in the judge said a lot of this in the public setting, was highly complimentary of the Arlington Police Department and the training procedures it has in place already. That was something that the judge made on the record. Those comments were, it's a rarity to see a judge so complimentary of a defendant. I mean, it was part of our settlement negotiations, but that was an open court session where the judge talked about that. I think the Arlington Police Department does a great job with its training procedures and has through the years. I think our police chief, Julie Flaherty, has done a great job training our staff as well as her leadership at the police department. So in general, I don't think there's any specifics that I want to get into, but in general, I would say the Arlington Police Department is extremely well trained.
Thank you for answering those questions. And now I just want to move on to the upcoming town meeting in April, I believe. Is it?
Starts April 28th.
Starts April 28th. We had Jim Finney earlier here in the studio, and he was saying you were very excited for it.
Yeah, people might think it's a little strange.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I really like about town government, and Massachusetts is a bit unique in the United States experience with its town meeting method of government. The town of Arlington really embraced that. There are different ways that towns can do it. There's the representative town meeting, which is what Arlington has. So the town elects representatives from each precinct. I think there are 21 precincts in Arlington. There are 252 town meeting members who are elected from those precincts, and they get to show up and they get to represent their precincts in the town and vote on issues that are important to the town. There's also an open town meeting form of government where every citizen who's registered to vote in that community, in that town, can appear at town meeting and they get to vote. So that's also a different way to do it. I really like the way we do it in Arlington, and I think that again, it's the level of engagement in Arlington is really high, and I think people get excited about town meeting. It's a great opportunity to learn about how local government works. Yeah. It's often just a fun, fair, open debate about a lot of important issues. I think some of them are pretty standard and they're dealt with via consent agenda, but you have the budget issues, those type of appropriations, but there are those zoning issues that come before town meeting. There are general bylaw amendments. There are new ideas. And every year that I've been here, there's always at least a few that spark a high level of interest in community and are really something that I enjoy digging into. So that process is just beginning. The warrant, which is the official notice for the town meeting, the draft of that, I'm sure you've already dove into it and read it cover to cover.
I did. Do you know what? I tried to read it cover to cover. I didn't quite get to read it cover to cover, but I did have a look at it earlier this morning. And I actually wanted to ask you about that. In terms of like warrant articles, do you find that citizens submit warrant articles frequently or?
Yes. I think we have 78 articles on the warrant this year. That is a little bit higher than last year. Okay. But in general, citizen petitions account for, I'm going to give an estimate here. I think they're usually about 10 to 15 of those. Okay. Many of them are the warrant articles that are needed year to year for purposes of ensuring that Arlington continue to function. And things that are necessarily needed for internal departments. So those warrant articles aren't necessarily citizen petitions. But I think the citizen petitions are always interesting, and I really appreciate there are a lot of citizens who reached out this year to talk to the legal department to work on these articles. And when they do that, that's especially rewarding. And I'm glad. The legal department doesn't take a position on any particular article. However, we want to make sure that the process is appropriate, proper, and that everything gets a full, fair hearing. Yeah. And that town meeting, whatever its choice might be, makes a choice that's got a good legal foundation, so whatever the town decides is supportable.
Yeah, that's another question I had for you on here. How do citizens reach out to you, and what is your role as a lawyer and then town council in terms of like that process of like assisting them with either petitions they may have, or like how may they contact you, or how do they contact you?
Email's the best.
Okay.
People do make phone calls as well to the legal department, but email is the best way to get to us. And then the last 4 years we've run through the civic engagement group, which is another great town committee. That we have a session where we talk about the town meeting process. We run. It's a really exciting slideshow that talks about how the town meeting works, how to submit a warrant article. When we usually do that in December, January, in preparation for the opening of the warrant. So, encouraging people to reach out if they have ideas, and we have received a bunch through that process. But in general, people can reach out anytime.
Okay. Good. I'm trying to. And another question I had for you in terms of that as well was, what pressing issues do you notice the citizen or business owners of town of Arlington reaching out to you about through either these articles or petitions that they submit?
I think There are a lot, but I think zoning in particular is always something that people are interested in. I think the ways in the town that the town's going to try and regulate it, what can be built where and why, that dictates how the town grows, how it changes. I think those are issues that are of particular interest to a lot of people. Our Department of Planning and Community Development, Claire Rickers is the person who handles a lot of that material, with her, Deputy Sarah Suarez, but then also the ARB, which is a collection of really strong and experienced people who handle and hear those issues before their particular board on zoning, are really well qualified and a really great resource for the town as well. It all comes back to I find Arlington really amazing at the level of talent of people who volunteer their time to serve on these boards, committees, and commissions. And the select board is made up of people who have a ton of experience and are really committed to the best for Arlington's future. And I think to me that's inspiring as an employee of the town, to work hard for these people who care so much about the community.
Yeah, it's nice to have kind of community that's very engaged. I'm sure that makes your role a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah, I think in Arlington's it's just a town that's it's fairly diverse for a town. I think that makes things, the interests are also diverse, but in general I think it's drawn this community of people who are oftentimes really highly educated or come from backgrounds that they know what they're doing. It's just impressive to see these people come to Arlington, as well as the people in Arlington who've been here a long time are a great resource for the town's history. For those of us who are not from the town of Arlington, I think it's just great to have the entire community. I like the way that they come together to work on issues that are important.
Brilliant. And just as your role as town council, when it comes to the town meeting in particular, is your role more advisory? I know you draft the warrant, but when the actual town meeting is going on, do you have any particular role or duties that you need to be doing, or is your role more advisory and just to draft certain articles and that sort of stuff?
I don't know. A lot of it's not drafted by me. I was stressed, and
Okay.
I would give credit to the Select Board's office and Ashley Marr is the administrator in that office. They put together most of the warrant. Once they're all submitted, they do a ton of work to get this thing ready for the town, because the town meeting warrant itself and town meeting, it's really Select Board's show, and
Okay.
I think that they do a great job getting that ready. At town meeting itself, I am there to serve in an advisory capacity. Once the town meeting begins, it's really the show of the town moderator, Greg Christian, who does a great job, kind of setting the agenda and making sure people are getting their time to speak and calling for votes. The town moderator may call upon town council to provide opinions on certain matters, to provide answers to questions that may be raised by either citizens or town meeting members. They may be a procedural question that comes up, so I'm there to answer questions in real time as needed from citizens, town meeting members, but especially the moderator, who has the authority to call on me at any time. So I got to be ready.
Okay. Yeah. Quick on your feet. Are you quick on your feet? Do you?
I don't know.
No, you don't know.
I try to be.
You try to be. Yeah, well, that's good. I'm terrible at for kind of being quick on my feet and just thinking I scramble way too often.
I don't see that at all.
Do you not? Thank
No.
you. Thank you. And I suppose to kind of close out, what is your experience or what is your sense of Arlington? How would you best describe this town?
It's a community that cares a lot. It's a community that's actively engaged. It's a community that's well informed on the issues. So I better be too.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure you are. You look like. Thank you for answering all of our questions here today. I've really enjoyed speaking with you, and thank you for dropping by and speaking with us today. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge and experience with us, and thank you everybody at home for tuning in. So thanks a lot, Michael.
Thank you very much for having me, Lisa, and thank you to ACMi for conducting this program.
And thank you for watching. This is The Talk of the Town, and I'm Eloisa Dias with ACMi. Have a great day.
ACMi productions are only made possible with your support. Visit patreon.com/ACMi to learn how you can help.